Today we meet Anthony Diacono, the chairman of MedServ plc. Set up back in 1974, the company provides a host of support services for the oil and gas industry. MedServ operates in Malta, Libya, Cyprus, Egypt, Oman, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates and Suriname in Central America. Operating in these countries has been quite a challenge, as we will learn during the interview today. Identifying and securing projects in such a competitive market requires skill and agility. MedServ has been listed on the Malta Stock Exchange since 2006 and won various awards, apart from being labelled One to Watch by the European Business Awards in 2019. In our discussion today, Anthony Diacono reveals the ups and downs of running an international business out of Malta and provides some strategic insight into what makes his company one of Malta's international high flyers. Hello and welcome to this conversation with international entrepreneurs based in Malta. Today, Anthony Diacono, who took MedServ to international success, and today he's here to share with us the experience, the ups and downs of this company, to try to understand and try to convey to you as users of Trade Malta and otherwise the do's and don'ts of international business. Anthony, thanks for being with us today. First of all, thanks for finding time to do this. Let me take you back to the origins of MedServ, but more specifically to the first international opportunity that you had. What was the experience there, and how did it kind of, trigger the whole internationalization process?
First of all, thank you, Joe, for having me. I hope our discussion will be of interest to your viewers. Yes, you mentioned going back to where we started, and that's a long way. We've been in business now for 45 years. I got involved in the company later than that, when actually I purchased the company with my partner and we took it forward. When we started, MedServ was only in Malta. Our orders and our contracts were actually in North Africa. So if you like, we were already only in export business. But one of the biggest dangers we had was we realized that we relied on one country and basically one large client with all the small ones that come along with us. And that is definitely not a good, comfortable position to be in. So from day one, our target was to expand. We had to go regional, especially in the sector we operate in. We are an oil and gas. Now we are called an energy, as is the modern terminology we use in our industry, providing integrated logistics to this energy sector, especially offshore. We targeted, we went ahead to produce our service levels in the sense to improve our product and make ourselves known in the market. The first big project we really got involved with that set us off was the gas pipeline from North Africa, from Libya to Europe. We were involved in all of that, and that really spurred us on. And then things from there started moving on, rolling forward. So it's been quite a trip, and I think quite a successful trip with its ups and downs like everything else in life.
And as you went along following that project, I guess based on the experience of that project, you had a number of other, great opportunities or projects that kind of defined the company from then on. Give us a bit of an idea of, that journey in terms of milestones and therefore where you are today in terms of presence.
Well, it is a process. As you're building, it's a process, step by step, brick by brick. You have to obviously, as I hinted, make sure you're offering something that is required by the clients that you are trying to serve. So you have to make sure, for us it was very important to make sure that we've developed the right suite of services. We then moved on to building the relationships that is needed in the sector. All of this leads to opportunities. As we gained credibility, we were being invited to tender for different projects. This happened over years, not months. We did make mistakes along the way. We did have setbacks, but in the end, if you weigh the whole thing, it was all positive. As we gained credibility, we got more invitations to participate in tenders. We started getting a high rate of success of scores, wins, and that spurred us on. So a lot will be going on in the background. You have to study where we think the market is going to be in the future, what are the requirements, and you build and adapt to the situation and go for it.
After the main kind of pipeline project within Malta and Europe, what was kind of the second, and the other important kind of milestone?
The important milestone, I think, was our first step, if you like, to invest outside of Malta.
Okay.
All right. We had already done a step by going to North Africa and opening actually a physical base over there. But that for us was nearly our backyard. We had been operating in there. We wanted to spread further. The Eastern Med became a very important region for this business, and we set our eyes on Cyprus. Cyprus was a completely different kettle of fish for us. We were investing in an EU nation. We were investing in a country that had no record of successful fossil fuel discoveries. Everything was new. And I must admit, there was a lot of resistance to us coming in to that market by my colleagues now and competitors in country who were seen as a threat coming in. So we had to...
Because you were a relative newcomer back then? Or...
In Cyprus, first of all, the industry was new to them.
Okay.
The traditional companies that used to do port handling and stuff like that thought this is going to be an opportunity for them. Okay. When they saw us coming in, we were perceived as a threat. That is the basic truth of the matter. We were a threat because we were competing, and eventually we actually secured 90% of the business in Cyprus. So that, getting that right, moving and having a lovely base in Cyprus, I think was the first real big milestone for us to achieve. And from there, then we could spread to other areas.
Just for me to understand how the model works, and what did you do exactly in Cyprus? Is it a base that you go in and build essentially, and therefore service what's happening in the area? How does it happen?
Well, similar to the bases we have in Malta and we had in Libya, you are actually, shall I call it, a boutique port, okay, where you have a dedicated quay. And the hinterland with the relevant warehouses and any engineering that is required, workshops and all the stuff. So in Cyprus, we managed to locate such a site, which was really adaptable for the work we want to do. One of the difficulties we even had in Malta here with our stakeholders, the bankers and other people, is to understand what our business is. Okay. It is not moving a box from A to B and hauling stuff around. It is much more than that. We become part of the company that is drilling for oil or producing gas or other things. We form part of their link of business and make sure that things go smoothly for them over there. We have developed management systems, we have developed IT systems, we have accounting packages specific for them, okay. Real-time products to deliver to them. So it is a very specialized thing. As a matter of fact, I am quite proud to say that we are now considered in the top 3 globally in terms of firms. Okay. And that is quite an achievement.
An achievement, of course.
So basically, we set up shop in Cyprus. We had our main client who was the first person over there, and then we started winning the other clients that also joined in the Eastern Med.
So Cyprus was kind of the first kind of international milestone where you became known a little bit in the industry and in the network, because I believe it's a network which is probably quite small, no?
Very small. You hit on a very important thing. We have the advantage that maybe there are 12 clients we're interested in globally, the big names in our sector. We are on the global vendor list of all of them. We were very surprised, and I have to be careful not to mention certain confidential information, when, for example, one of the largest companies in the world decided to rationalize its vendors, and in our sector they brought it down to about 6. Okay. We are one of the 6 globally, to give you where we have managed to arrive. And I'm talking about mega companies, We're talking about the Exxons, the BPs, the Shells, the real big players in the energy field. Why? Because we have we are now seen as part of a solution to them, and that is the key.
Yeah.
You have to give value, otherwise
Absolutely.
it just won't
But obviously, in the sense, Cyprus was a very important learning experience, I guess. What happened then? Was it easier to attain new business beyond Cyprus?
Yes, Cyprus was the first step, if you like, where once again we proved we're a bit mad, as some of the people around me said, because when we went in, operations had not started. There was the conflict with Turkey, which was hindering operations. We were not welcomed initially, although now I am more, very happy over there, and they're happy with us. So that taught us a lot, and that introduced us to the other companies that were interested in the area, and they saw our resilience and the fact that we deliver. From there, we had to then react to further developments. Because while we were talking about all this in this period, we had downturns, we had civil wars in some of our main markets, revolutions, exactly. NATO intervening and bombing everything out of, including our base.
But this is beyond Cyprus, of course, you're saying.
Yes, but it changed again the landscape of where we operate. So we had to take another real big step, which is go invest in what we call easy oil countries. In other words, if you invest, for example, in deep sea project areas where there's a lot of deep sea, that's a very expensive operation. And to extract fossil fuel at that depth costs a lot. So we decided, and we sought out to get to invest in the Middle East, where it costs between $6 to $8 a barrel to extract oil. Okay. So it's very competitive, and I wanted to remove the fluctuations in business. We actually bought a group of companies, and for MetServe it was a major investment of 45 million euros.
When was this approximately?
This was about 6 years ago already. Okay. Already, time flies. Okay. This was a group of company called Mets. And they were not doing what we do, but it was complementary. Oh, right, okay. Because not only did we want to break into a new market, we wanted to add on a new suite of services.
And they obviously probably knew that the Middle Eastern market better than you, I guess.
Definitely. We had never worked in the Middle East, maybe on a one-off, so we wouldn't consider ourselves experts. So we bought the expertise, but more importantly, we bought the relationships that this group of company has. That is, for me, key. Suddenly, on my client list, I had all the major world producers of pipes that are used in our industry. And names like Sumitomo, Valorec, Tenaris, there are about 5.
Became accessible, to you suddenly.
We are now recognized, we are now in there with them. And then you start having the synergies. And with them, we are now looking at other markets, other locations in the world where we can continue expanding.
But between Cyprus, which was the first international kind of major opportunity, and your acquisitions and where you are today in terms of presence, of course, a lot has happened. You had other projects, because you are present in other places in the Middle East and I believe even in Central America somewhere, no?
Correct. Yes, we continued developing. And if I could try and do it chronologically, after Cyprus, the next step was we went into Egypt. Again, a difficult market to get in, but we were being pressurized by our clients.
Okay, you were following the client, really.
Exactly. The clients, after all, the client goes where there's the material, where there's the business. We have to go there to service them. And it is really, gratifying that the client tells you, listen, in 2 years' time, I'm going to be there. Whether you like it or not, you have to come. Okay. We need you. We need you to be there. But
it's an opportunity, of course.
Exactly.
And a challenge.
And that proves that we have developed the relationship that we worked so hard to achieve. So we're in Egypt, developing that nicely. We're in the Middle East, and then we were invited to the Caribbean. We managed to win a nice contract in Suriname, which I had never heard of, actually. I had never heard of before we actually did. Yes, with all due respect to my friends over there before. I would say we are now first movers in that part of the world. And I can see us moving into Guyana and maybe Trinidad as we go along.
Opportunities on that side of the world, how do they come about? Is it essentially because you're in the network nowadays and things happen a bit naturally, or do you do an actual marketing effort?
I don't think we've spent €1 on marketing.
Okay.
It is all about building relationships because we can, because our business allows it. As I said, there are 10 companies we target, the main ones, and then you have, with those, then come the very big companies, the subcontractors that produce the chemicals and all the other stuff that is needed in our operation. It's by word of mouth, and by making sure we always deliver what we promise. It's interesting that when we go from country to country, we end up meeting, for example, the head of a department will be the same man we met 3 years ago in another part of the world.
Because the people remain in the industry.
Yes, and everybody moves with the project.
Exactly. It works because the relationship is built, and it's because obviously you have a reputation which you build by, delivering, of course. So the two go together.
Very much so, and I don't want to give the impression you just sit back and it comes to you. No,
exactly.
It took years of developing the product, developing the relationship, and an important point we haven't spoken about is, you have to develop your in-house personnel. The capability internally is key in a service company.
Yeah, we're going to come to that. Before that, was there a point in this whole journey where you thought, listen, we're connected enough internationally, there are enough opportunities out there to kind of take the company to the next level? Was that when you went public, or before or after? Which was the kind of internal milestone, which was very important?
My biggest hindrance in the past has been to be able to respond to the business opportunities.
Okay.
We quickly realized we cannot be just Malta-centric. There's no market here for us. You have to play on the global stage. We set ourselves a structured approach how to build. You have to finance the building of it. It has to be sustainable. So we had to learn how to say no to certain projects and choose which we can, successfully conclude. And that can be quite a difficult thing to do, to say no, because on paper they look very interesting. And then when you do your risk analysis and how it will affect the group going forward, is it sustainable, although it's a good deal? You can't always finance everything like that. So yes, I think we got our major long-term decisions right, and that is what led to the success.
Today you are present in so many countries, and like you're explaining, it's really one network where you have a lot of deep relationships in various countries. What have you learned about dealing with people from different cultures over this time?
Well, being a service company, you really have to enjoy working with people and making sure you understand how to deal with people and never forget that they are people. No matter we are now on 4 continents, and no matter which part of the world we operate out of, I have only found 2 types of people.
Okay.
Those that work and those that work less.
Okay.
Those are really, that is the difference we see. Yes, you have to be switched on, and you have to learn how, the traditions of the locals, because you don't want to create problems when it can be avoided if we educate ourselves, not educate them.
Educate ourselves?
In other words, we have to learn what they expect from us. We can train them to achieve a certain level of service, and that is global. You train people with the same program. But then there are certain things you have to know how to do, and not to offend the local traditions. I remember one particular incident in the beginning, driving, all excited. I was younger, still had black hair, and we used to be packed in this exciting time, traveling around the world, tight schedules, and I think it was North Africa. We were traveling from one area to another, and when you travel by car in these areas, our HSC people have to vet the route we're taking. Exactly. They have to vet the driver if he's up to standard to be accepted, and all these things. And we had a tight schedule. I had to catch a flight to go somewhere else. So we were zooming along, dust flying everywhere to get to the airstrip, and suddenly this very nice gentleman who was driving stops, disappears. And I'm sitting in the heat over there. where
The
is
flight to catch, of course.
flight to catch, the whole program going haywire, getting upset, blood pressure going up, blah, blah. All it was is we didn't factor in that at a certain time of the day, no matter what you're doing, they stop because they attend prayer.
Okay, it's prayer time. Okay.
So who made the mistake? Did he make the mistake? Absolutely
Or was
not.
it the planning, which wasn't
It was the planning that we didn't factor in something that for them is extremely nice. He never thought, that is wrong, and it caused chaos, just because we didn't get it right.
Exactly.
So you do have to put in the local, the local requirements. The rest, you'll find, as I said, and I'll end on this note, there are two people. And I think it's important those that work and and you find them anywhere.
Exactly. Those that work mean hardworking, you mean? Not that work with
The
a
others
certain
don't
attitude.
interest me. It's the hardworking.
Okay.
The people who we've managed to convince that they are part of the organization.
Exactly.
That they are not clocking in at a certain time to clock out at another time.
But I
They
guess-
have a mission to achieve, they are recognized for that achievement, and they give you not 100%, we get 120.
Great.
That is...
But creating, I guess, that culture of people contributing to a bigger, reality and organization is obviously a feat in itself. You've worked with many teams, of course, in different countries. What's a high-performing team? Is it just people who, want to work? I'm sure it's a bit more than that.
It is more than that. And it gets, I must admit, it gets more difficult as you grow.
Okay.
When we started off, I think we were 60 people. We have now topped 500. So it gets very difficult to maintain a personal relationship. But you have to build in systems then that allow you to achieve the same goals. So you build a relationship with the next layer that you are mostly in contact with.
Right.
And you expect them to build a relationship with the next layer and so forth, so that everybody gets the same ethos across the group. And as much as possible, the leader of the group has to find time to visit, recognize people's work, and try and keep a personal touch. It's amazing what a thank you can do to a person after slogging away at a project, and then some CEO in a far-flung country takes all the praise, and the man who actually had to do it is completely forgotten.
Okay.
There are simple things, but my God, they do make a difference.
Really work in that sense.
They do make a difference.
Let me take you a little bit to the macro level again on the industry. The energy sector has, of course, over this whole journey, been through its ups and downs. Prices of oil, going in different directions, and other major developments in the sector. Have these crises, globally meant that there were crises on a company level as well? And how did you, as a company, react at different junctures?
At home and at work, they joke that my hair went white because of certain events. But in reality, I have an amazing team at MedServ. Of course, it affected us. I mean, one incident I remember is we quickly convened down in Malta at MedServ when the slowdown hit us. And, you have an order book, and all you're receiving all week are emails, force majeure, we're stopping, we're there, trigger force majeure, trigger force majeure. You have hundreds of people who depend on your payroll. You have commitments, obligations. Yes, I think it does affect you. And yes, you do stay up at night thinking what you have to do. But you have to be dynamic. You have to read the situation, remain calm. And if you have the right team with you, most of the time you do pull out, as we have done. We have shown our resilience. We adopted, yes, we restrained expenditure where we could, but we did not go down the route of actually contracting ourselves.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, again, we were considered crazy. We went the other way and we invested. Okay. That is when we invested in the Middle East.
During a crisis, you mean?
During the crisis. We invested in the Middle East because it's a good time to invest in this scenario. And also we diversified into an area that was least affected by the global downturn. Okay. So, as you can see, we are quite a positive thinking setup. We work hard to look for an opportunity, and then we go going at it. And again, it worked in our favor. Thank God we did that investment. And for us, for a company our size at that time, investing 45 million was,
of course,
quite substantial.
Let me look at the kind of like you said, seeking kind of an opportunity. You mentioned before you did not spend money on marketing, but I guess, you generate a lot of leads anyway, without the traditional marketing, if you like. And a lot of it probably is down to networking. But I'm sure people out there would be asking, God, how do you network in an industry which, like all industries, is pretty small? You have the main players. How do you network effectively?
Yes, I think that's a very good question, and I must admit, probably each business and each sector has to do it. Could do it a bit differently. In our case, it was really a case of first, and I have to say this again, making sure you have something relevant to offer your client, something of value. Yes, because no matter how friendly I can be with if I have nothing to offer him, no value, it's not going to work. And then once we get in and somebody mentions, do I go to trade missions? Do I go attend fairs and advertise in journals? Again, I think there is no one book answer, one answer all sort of for this question. Fairs can be helpful, but they are not the only thing, and one has to be very careful not to burn a lot of money going to fairs and they turn into weekend trips, just drinking, etc. I believe a lot in building personal relationships. It's much easier when you're small to do this. The big boys like it that the chief of a company appears himself.
Is present there.
Exactly, that he is over there, takes responsibility, and then introduces his team, and then our team meets the other side's team, and slowly things
I guess also the industry is a bit, I would dare say, a bit traditional in that sense, no?
Our industry is very traditional, extremely conservative, and we have an advantage. The players are few.
Okay.
Although they are flung across globally, you go to London, you go to Houston, you go to Dubai, and you've hit the three main centers to meet the players.
Globally.
And then it's the operations that go.
Exactly. But because globally, the players are few, it's probably harder to penetrate and build a reputation, and easy to ruin a reputation. No?
Look. It's easier to build and so much easier to lose, because as soon as you make a grievous mistake, something really serious, everybody's going to know within half an hour.
Exactly.
And your reputation, once you dent it, it takes so long to rebuild.
Exactly.
So that is key. We start first on a personal level, but then you've succeeded in establishing what I refer to as a commercial relationship, when that personal thing between Mr. A and Mr. B is no longer the relationship anymore. It is the relationship between a company and us. So when the person changes in the other company, he automatically introduces us to the new team coming. We don't ask for it. It comes automatically.
Exactly.
Why? Because we are seen as part of the solution, and we've taken away a lot of headaches for them. I'm not saying that we've always got it right, that we've never had our mishaps, and we've also had incidents which we had to respond to, of course. And there's nothing better than being honest and facing it straight on.
Early and straight
but the relationships is so important, and when you reach then that you've moved to company relationships at various levels, I think then you succeed.
Talk to us a little bit about your kind of major decisions. I want to ask two kind of probably expected questions, major decisions that were right for the company, and major mistakes you've done over time, or the company has done. Sorry.
Well, no, I can shoulder that responsibility too. One of the areas we wanted to get into, we've been targeting for the last 5 years, is Africa. And I don't mean North Africa, but we're already established. Africa offers a lot in the future, especially in our sector, in the energy sector. So we have been targeting Africa. And we spent time and money trying to identify where to start. And I was all hyped up about this. And the country we were going to go in with as a first thing was Tanzania. We got it wrong. and I take full responsibility. It cost us 3 years of that. And where did we get it wrong? Because in our discussions and analysis, we had a lot of risks we wanted to try and mitigate before we would take the step. And we decided to partner up with a very large international company that could probably assist us in doing our work, because we wanted like some insurance and some guarantee. And we partnered with them, and we made a joint bid for a large project. We made it to the final, but there is only one winner, and that wasn't us. We lost. And obviously, these companies are very serious. After we lost, they did hold a post-mortem with us, and they explained to us what happened. And they were we realized, and then that they separated us for the post-mortem, the big firm and tiny Metzev. And we realized that we went to bed with somebody who was so strong, so big. The client realized that we would not really, although it was a 50-50 JV, we would not really be in control of what we want to do. I think that came across so clear. To keep putting it simply, and we lost out. And I am to blame for that, because I should have seen learning experience, and you move on. That I think is one of the things that really annoyed me in the process, because it threw us back in our development in that part of the world for quite some time. The only good thing that came out of that is I headhunted the man who beat us, and he joined our.
Speak about small networks, of course.
Exactly, and he joined our group and helped us develop then going forward.
Interesting. Back to people. In fact, I wanted to ask you, Metzev at the moment is at a very particular and interesting, period. You yourself are also changing a little bit your role, and we've heard that there are changes in the sense that there is a succession going on.
Yes.
I want to just tell us what you can tell us about the developments, and also about how you managed the succession to the new people who are taking over the executive side, because succession planning is a very important issue.
Right. Let's take this on 2 points. I have the fortune of having a very good board of directors, and our mind works in 5-10-year blocks.
Windows.
We're not interested in the day-to-day operation of the group. We have competent people, and if we start putting our nose in, we'll probably mess it up. So they do that. But to decide the strategy we want to operate, or we need to operate to continue growing, obviously, this is done at board level with big participation from the executive management. The one thing we realized is that we've reached a certain level. To reach the next level, we're going to have to rethink our structure again, because we are of a certain size, and the next level needs a company of a completely different size to continue servicing the expectations of these dozen clients we mentioned. So that meant we had to seek a strategic investor to come in. 3 years ago, we engaged in an operation to do so. We were looking for suitors to come in to either invest with Metzev, or even if they want, if it fits, take Metzev over to take it to the next level. Because we cannot make the mistake of thinking that Metzev is Anthony Diacono. No way. I'm a very small part of the jigsaw. Also, the two main shareholders in Metzev today, Tony and I, well, somehow we seem to be getting older. I don't know why, but we can't seem to stop this. It's going fast. And as I approach 70, I realize I need to do something about that. And the company needs to have a different approach. First of all, I couldn't remain CEO. I needed somebody younger and more energetic and more up to speed and can understand what's going on much quicker than I can. And that is where we came to the succession planning. Okay, and this process started. We have put Carl Bartolo as our new CEO a couple of years ago. The only thing I say about that is I took too long to do it. That's another. It should have happened before. Because the immediate effect, the energy it brought into the management team, having a chap who could really get on with it.
But he was in the company before, no?
Correct. Carl came in a long time ago. He was our CFO. Then we informed him that we're targeting him for this position, and he shadowed me for a couple of years.
All right. So it was a couple of years of
Yes,
shadowing.
it was a couple of years. We did everything together. In Maltese, we say it's not di uddo.
Yes,
You know,
yes, all the time.
everything together. We think alike. I think we ended up thinking alike. And soon I realized that I could not keep up with this chap. He was way ahead of me.
It's a great state to be in.
You know, yes, and he was better than I was. He was getting better results. The obvious thing is to do that. And not only that, I can also say I was sure that my board would not let me stay CEO because they could see we had the right candidate. So I remained as chairman of the group and called it that. As I was saying, we had an investor lined up, and this investor wanted to take the whole group. We signed, we had reached agreement, and then something beyond our control happened, which is the bloody COVID, excuse the French, the COVID thing, and that force measure was put on hold. Thank God, our side of management, we tried to, risk manage as much as possible. We had in place plans to make sure we don't make the mistake that, look, someone else is coming in, and we don't care what's happening tomorrow. The company has a life of its own. So we divided this operation, and our management team made sure they were still running the business, that even if an investor doesn't come in, we can continue. And that is exactly what happened. So while there was disappointment and the market did react, what happened, although they knew there was a very valid reason, COVID is not something beyond anyone's control, of course. And now I realize how right this investor was, because at that time I thought he was making a fuss, obviously, saying, look, this is something that will pass overnight. Well, I think he had, I think he definitely had foresight, and he did not come in. This has blown over. But our main aim was still to go to the next level. So we had to redesign our thinking. There was one particular group of companies that I met during this process who had dropped out because the other one came in. And we approached him again. And we have reached agreement where they will be coming in as partners. We're holding our extraordinary general meeting on the 11th of June. They're coming in with new equity in the company, which will rebuild our balance sheet after the effects of COVID. But more importantly, these are from the sub-Saharan region, which has been our target market for the next foreseeable future. They have bases in various countries down there, already operate, already known. And they're a perfect fit in culture.
So they're a fit in,
It's a fit, for us. So our next stage will be this. Obviously, barring if our general meeting does not agree with us, so that I don't preempt the power of the general.
As always, governance. But really interesting time. Before we wrap up, Anthony, I wanted to ask, first of all, decision making. You're obviously taking decisions, you and the board, and now the new CEO, all the time. Are there some habits, even perhaps on the way we manage ourselves on a personal level, that are useful, so that you'll be able to be kind of fit to take decisions? Some people do sport and some people do other things, Or are you focused completely on the company? Is that the secret?
No. I would say, God forbid, that there would be such dull people. I have thoroughly enjoyed every minute of the journey that I was fortunate enough to go through in terms of my business life. It has been exciting. I started in manufacturing, and then when I retired from there, I spent a short period of time working also at macro level for Malta. When I sold my business to the Americans, the manufacturing business, I did, I think, 5 years as chair of the development agency, it was called in those days, the Malta Development Agency, trying to bring investment to Malta. Then I moved into MedServ. Then I got involved with a bank. I'm still chairman of a bank in Malta for the last 10 years. So I was very happy doing all of this. But my God, it's important to have something that's different. And I like boating, so that is my my hobby. That is where I get away. And yes, as you can see, I eat and love cooking and all these things. So what I'm trying to say is you must have a deviation, and you go back better charged and clearer in your mind. So it's been quite a trip. But I think you asked me something else, which I missed. I didn't answer.
The last thing I wanted to ask to wrap up would be a lot of people who are, or companies, users of Trade Malta services, would be companies thinking of an international journey or just started and, facing the first challenges. And this is, we'll wrap up with this. What would be your, one or three words of advice, to someone who's really taking internationalization seriously?
Okay. I think that's an appropriate question for this session to end on. Everybody can participate in export, but there are certain rules that have to be observed. Number one is you have to analyze what you're offering out there. You have to make sure you have something that is needed. I like to go into markets that are difficult. I'm not going to go into the easiest market where there is every Tom, Dick and Harry, because the margins are going to be low, competition is going to be high, and the rate of success is the lowest possible. So we choose difficult markets with a good prospect, where my margins are satisfactory, and I also have protection because it's difficult to get in, barriers for entry. Make sure you always deliver. Learn to say no, not to offer something button the run, then I can do it. Learn to say no. After you analyze everything and you come to a conclusion that you want to do this, then go for it, and no half measures. You have to go for it as though there's no tomorrow.
And execute with detail.
Yes, and then execute.
Absolutely.
Then execute.
Yeah.
Don't dilly-dally, because you'll be overtaken and you won't even realize, what happens.
Yeah. You make it sound so easy and so much fun.
Believe me, it's not, but it is fun.
Great.
It is fun.
That's important. And this has been great fun, Anthony. I'd like to thank you for finding time to do this. It's very, very useful for us. Before we wrap up, I'd like to thank Trade Malta, of course, who's bringing these talks with international entrepreneurs. HSBC, our strategic partners, together with Studio 7, will be bringing you more of this in the next few weeks. Thank you very much.